Welcome to the lesson on experiments. Observational study versus experiments. Well, an observational study observes individuals and measures variables of interest but does not attempt to influence the responses. The goal of an observational study is to describe a group, compare groups, or examine relationships between variables. Now, an experiment deliberately imposes some treatment on individuals to measure responses. The purpose of an experiment is to determine whether a treatment causes a change in the response. We use experiments to understand cause and effect. Now here is an example of whether or not to use an observation or an experiment. Should women take hormones such as estrogen after menopause? When natural production of these hormones ends? In 1992, several major medical organizations said yes, women should take hormones to reduce the risk of a heart attack because it showed that women, the reduction in a heart attack was 35 to 50%. The risk of taking hormones appeared small compared with the benefits. The evidence in favor of hormone replacement came from a number of observational studies that compared women who were taking hormones with others who were not. But the women who chose to take hormones were richer and better educated and saw doctors more often than women who didn't take the hormones. Because the women who took hormones did many other things to maintain their health, it isn't surprising that they had fewer heart attacks. To get convincing data on a link between hormone replacement and heart attacks, we should do an experiment. Experiments don't let women decide what to do. They assign women to either hormone replacement or a dummy pill that looks and tastes the same as hormone pills. The assignment is done by a coin toss so that all the kinds of women are equally likely to get either treatment. By 2002, several experiments with women of different ages agreed that hormone replacement does not reduce the risk of heart attacks. The National Institute of Health, after reviewing the evidence, concluded that the first studies were wrong. Taking hormones after menopause quickly fell out of favor. Okay, let's discuss some new vocabulary terms. Let's start off with lurking variable. A lurking variable is a variable that is not among the explanatory or response variables in a study, but may influence the response variable. Another vocabulary term we have is confounding. Confounding occurs when two variables are associated in such a way that their effects on a response variable cannot be distinguished from each other. Okay, let's go back to the women in the hormone replacement. Did the women in the hormone group have fewer heart attacks because they got better health care or because they took hormones? We can't be sure a situation like this, in which the effects of two variables on a response variable cannot be separated from each other. This is what confounding is. In the early observational studies with the hormone replacement, the effect of taking hormones was mixed up with the characteristic of women who chose to take them. These characteristics are lurking variables. Okay, let's discuss the language of experiments. Well, what is an experiment? An experiment is a statistical study in which we actually do something, which is called the treatment, to people, animals, or objects, which we'll call experimental units, to observe the response. A treatment is a specific condition applied to the individuals in an experiment. Experimental units are the smallest collection of individuals to which treatments are applied. Then we have subjects. Subjects are experimental units that are human. And factors. Factors, sometimes the explanatory variables are called this. How to experiment badly. We're going to actually discuss a bad experiment. Here is the experiment. Which works better, online or in-class SAT preparation? A high school regularly offers a review course to prepare students for the SAT. This year, budget cuts will allow the school to offer only an online version of the course. Over the past 10 years, the average SAT scores of students in the classroom course was 1620. That was the classroom course. And the online group got an average of 1780. That's roughly 10% higher than the long-time average for those who took the classroom review course. Is the online course more effective? This experiment has a very simple design. A group of subjects, the students, were exposed to a treatment, the online course, and the outcome, the SAT scores, was observed. Here is the design. Students, which are my subjects, the treatment, which is the online course, and the outcome is the SAT scores. A closer look showed that the students in the online review course were quite different from the students who took the classroom course in the past years. They had higher GPAs and were taking more AP courses. The effect of online versus in-class instruction is mixed up with the effect of these lurking variables. Maybe the online students earned higher SAT scores because they are smarter to begin with, not because the online course prepared them better. This confounding prevents us from concluding that the online course is more effective than the classroom instruction. How to experiment well. Let's take in consideration a randomized comparative experiment. We're going to go back to the SAT preparation, classroom versus online course, and restructure this experiment a bit. Now we'll have some students taught the online course, while other students are taught the classroom course. Now most well-designed experiments do compare two or more variables. Random assignment. Random assignment means that experimental units are assigned to treatments at random, that is, using some sort of chance process. And completely randomized design means the treatments are assigned to all of the experimental units completely by chance. Let's go back to the SAT prep, online versus classroom. How the random assignment works. This year the high school has enough budget money to compare the online SAT course with the traditional classroom instruction. 50 students have agreed to participate in an experiment comparing the two instructional methods. The problem is we need to describe how we would randomly assign 25 students to each of the two methods. There's 3 different ways we can do this. We can use 50 identical slips of paper, put them in a hat, draw them out. We can use a table D, which is a random number assigning that we can do to the students, and then we can use our TI Inspires to also randomly assign numbers to students. The simplest way would be to use the hat method. We'll write each subject's name on one of the slips, put all the slips in the hat and mix them thoroughly. Draw them out one at a time until you have 25 slips. These 25 students will take the online course. The remaining 25 students will take the classroom course. Alternatively, you could write online on 25 of the slips and classroom on the other 25 slips. Then put the slips back in the hat, mix them well, and have the students come up one by one without looking, pick a slip from the hat. This guarantees 25 students per group with the treatments assigned by chance. Then we can use a 2-step process from random sampling to do the random assignment. Step 1 would be label. We'll give labels 01, 02, 03, all the way up to 50 to the subjects in alphabetical order by last name. Then the step 2 would be the table. We'll go to a line on table D and read a 2-digit groups moving from left to right. The first 25 distinct labels between 0, 1, and 50 that you encounter, select the online group. The remaining 25 students will take the classroom course. Ignore repeated labels and groups of digits from 51 to 00. We can also give numbers 1, 2, 3 all the way to 49 to 50 to the subjects in alphabetical order by last name. Then use our calculator's random integer command, and it'll give us a random number generator to produce numbers between 1 and 50. The first 25 different numbers chosen select the students for the online course. The remaining 25 students will take the classroom course. Okay, another vocabulary term we need to be comfortable with is control group. A control group receives an inactive treatment Purpose of a control group is to provide a baseline for comparing the effects of the other treatments. Okay, there are 3 principles of experimental design. Number 1, control. Control for lurking variables that might affect the response. Use a comparative design to ensure that only systematic differences between the groups is the treatment administered. 2, random assignment. Use impersonal chance to assign experimental units to treatments. This helps to create roughly equivalent groups of experimental units by balancing the effects of lurking variables that aren't controlled on the treatment groups. And replication. Use enough experimental units in each group so that any differences in the effects of the treatments can be distinguished from chance differences between the groups. Alright, experiments. What can go wrong? A randomized comparative experiment depends on our ability to treat all subjects the same in every way except for the actual treatments being compared. Good experiments require careful attention to details to ensure that all subjects are treated identically. Medical treatments. Medical treatments, if one group takes a medication and the control group does not take a pill, the subjects are not treated identically. Therefore, many medical experiments are placebo-controlled, which means there's a dummy treatment. All subjects receive the same medical attention during the experiment. The placebo effect is the response to the dummy treatment. Double-blind experiments. Neither the subjects nor those who interact with them and measure the response variable know which treatment a subject received. We use this whenever possible when we're experimenting on humans. A single-blind experiment is used when the subjects need to know what treatment they are receiving. An example of this is a study conducted to see which group has a better weight loss, group that does dieting or a group that does exercising. And of course, those particular subjects need to know whether they're doing the diet portion of the study or the exercise portion of the study. In an experiment, the researchers usually hope to see an observed effect so large that it would rarely occur by chance. This is called statistically significant. Okay, now we're going to discuss blocking. Blocking is when a population consists of a group of individuals similar within but different between. A stratified random sample gives a better estimate than a simple random sample. Doing the laundry. This is the idea of blocking. Suppose researchers want to test whether a new detergent for clothes that require hand washing cleans better in warm or in cold water. They decide to perform an experiment using numerous pieces of dirty laundry as the experimental units. The response variable is a cleanliness rating on a scale of 0, which is very dirty, to 10, which is very clean. How should researchers deal with the fact that light-colored clothing tends to come cleaner in warm water? They could use a completely randomized design and hope that the random assignments distributes the light-colored clothing about evenly between the cold and warm water treatment groups. Even so, there might be a lot of variability in cleanliness ratings in both groups due to the color of the clothing. This lurking variable might make it difficult to detect a difference in the effects of treatments. What should the researchers do? Since the researchers know that the color may affect cleanliness in a systematic way, they could start by separating the laundry into 2 piles. So we have this pile of laundry. We have light-colored clothing and dark-colored clothing. Each of these piles of similar... Okay, wait a minute, sorry. We're going to go ahead and separate into 2 piles. One for light colored and one for dark colored. Each of these piles of similar experimental units is known as a block. So this is a block. And this is a block. Within each block, the researchers could then randomly assign about half the pieces of laundry to the hand washed in cold water and the other half to be hand washed in warm water. So I'm going to split this again. And I'm going to do hand washing in cold water and hand washing in warm water. And then I'll break these two, the the darker colored clothing into cold water or warm or hot water. The same person should do all the washing as a form of control. This randomized block design reduces the effect of variation among the experimental units due to the color on the response variable. Okay, we have one type of experimental design to discuss yet, and that is the matched pair design. A matched pair design is a type of randomized block design for comparing two treatments. The idea is to create blocks by matching pairs of similar experimental units. This concludes our lesson on experiments. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you in class.